Three things to cover in weekly team meetings. If you're leading a weekly sync point with your team, you owe it to yourself and your team to ensure those meetings are extremely productive. Today, I want to give you a simple framework to ensure no one complains about your meetings. If I asked your team about your weekly meetings, what would they say? Do they look forward to them or do they dread them? Are they run consistently or are they frequently rescheduled? Do they start and end on time or do they drag on endlessly? Are they productive or are they a waste of time? Despite the fact that meetings in itself can be an extremely powerful communication tool, most meetings are often mismanaged and a waste of time. I, like many of you, have sat through my fair share of meetings that quickly spiral into a vortex of endless talking that has nothing to do with the original topic. Many leaders will attempt to justify their lack of discipline, which only leads to further frustration. This is most prevalent during weekly sync meetings with your team. What begins as a weekly cadence to keep everybody aligned quickly turns into a deep dive attempt to solve the crisis of the day, which usually only affects a small percentage of the participants. Weekly team meetings are not intended to solve problems. Their purpose is to increase communication and ensure alignment. Problems are solved in other forms with less people, often those intimately involved in the situation. So what do you talk about then in a weekly team meeting? I'm going to give you an outline of a simple framework to ensure your meetings are extremely productive and your team actually looks forward to attending them. If you stay with me until the end, I'm also going to share some personal advice that you will definitely want to consider for your team huddles going forward. Advice that I've from my own experiences over the years. Okay, let me explain the framework. I've been using the same framework for the last 25 or more years with multiple different teams in multiple different businesses and in multiple different industries, so I know it works. Best of all, it's extremely simple and easy to implement. First, I ask everyone who attends my weekly huddles to come prepared to discuss three things: highlights from last week, focus for this week, issues and challenges that require support. Bam, that's simple, right? Notice just how simple that agenda really is. Besides being simple, it covers everything I and you as a leader need to know in a weekly or daily huddle. I say that because I've also used the same framework for daily stand-up meetings. Instead of a weekly emphasis, I just repackage some of the language and I focus on highlights from yesterday, focus for today, issues and challenges that require support. Let me unpack this further. And I'll unpack it using the weekly version. First, let's discuss highlights from last week. You as the leader do not need to know everything that transpired over the last week, but you do need to know the highlights. You need to have a pulse on what is going on, and this gives it to you. What did each member of your team accomplish last week? What occurred, good or bad, that you need to be aware of? The purpose of this agenda item is to drive awareness and ensure that you're not blindsided by anything. Next, the conversation moves to focus for this week, right? This is an opportunity to discuss priorities for the upcoming week. I always like to hear from my team first, as it gives me insight into their critical thinking skills, right? I want to see what they think a priority is. The purpose of this agenda item is to drive alignment. I want to ensure we are in total sync as it relates to what is the most important. By discussing the focus at the beginning of the week, I create an opportunity, right, to reprioritize and refocus someone's effort. Once again, this ensures alignment. Third, are the issues and challenges that require support. If not carefully managed, this portion of the agenda leaves a door open for someone to take the meeting off course. You as the leader need to be extremely disciplined here. The goal is not to solve issues live, but instead identify them, figure out who needs to be involved, and when we can discuss that in further detail. Of course, if it's a simple answer, I will address something live, but most issues and challenges don't necessarily have a simple answer. So we as leaders need to be extremely vigilant here. For those of you who have stayed with me so far, I want to now share some personal advice that I encourage you to consider for your team huddles going forward. Before I do that, hit the like button and drop a comment below. Did you know that every time you do that, you elevate your thought leadership because others see you engaging in good content and they begin to view you as maybe someone they need to know, right? When we collectively surround ourselves with like-minded souls, right, it becomes a hell of a lot easier for us to get the things done. So hit the like button and drop a comment below and elevate your thought leadership. Okay, let me give you some personal advice from my own experiences over the years with team huddles and weekly sync points. First of all, meetings of any type, just generically, need to have an agenda. Not an elaborate agenda, but an agenda. I gave you one for a weekly huddle. Highlights from last week, focus for this week, issues and challenges that require support. I actually put that in the calendar invites when I send that out. That's an agenda. It's simple, it's concise, and it's consistent. See, people need to know what to expect ahead of time when they attend your meetings. Next, meetings need to be shorter, right? I remember reading somewhere, I forget exactly where, but that approximately like 50% of meeting time is wasted. And 30%, like some kind of like a third of the people in those meetings doze off during the meeting itself. That's a lot. If you're leading meetings, whether in person or via video, right, or even phone, you owe it to yourself and your team to become more effective at this leadership skill. Just imagine how much more productive your team would be if they held more effective meetings. I encourage you to evaluate all your team meetings and challenge yourself to cut the allocated time in half. I know that might sound drastic, but trust me, it works. Years ago, I used to have an hour sync meeting with each individual on my team. One day, I just reduced that to 30 minutes, and I forced everybody to get to the important stuff first. I moved all the chit chat that typically happens at the beginning of the meeting to the end, right? And I said, hey, let's get to this stuff first. If we have time, we can chit chat and talk about the weekend. See, too many meetings waste the first 15 minutes with pleasantries. Your job as a leader is to jump in. Also, meetings need to have high value. High value means the meeting has to be focused and have relevant content specific to those who are attending. I see too many leaders call meetings where they think everyone needs to be involved and half the participants end up doing email during the meeting itself. That's a waste of time. Challenge yourself to only involve those people who need to be involved or ask them to send a representative if they can't personally attend. It's a proven fact that smaller meetings are usually more productive. My last bit of advice for you is this. Close each meeting with one simple question. What decisions did we make today? Right? This question is pure gold. I love the word decisions, right, versus action items. Why? Because it drives ownership. We decide that Johnny is going to do X. We also decide that we would invest in fill in the blank. I love introducing language that I want my team to adopt. I want them to make decisions. So what do? So I use the word decisions in my close. What decisions did we make today? This reinforces the habit that I know personally will accelerate progress. This reinforces the fact that meetings, right, that we attend must be of high value because we make decisions in those meetings. I encourage you to adopt some of these tips in your next meetings. And if you want more strategies and tactics like the one I shared today, I want to help you. I want to buy you a copy of my book, Freedom to Experiment. How to ignite a new level of energy, focus, and momentum in yourself and your team. This book is dedicated to all the growth champions I work with. Follow the link in the description and I'll personally sign a copy for you. Okay, if you like what I shared today, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up, share a comment related to your business, and of course, subscribe because each week I'm sharing content to help you and your team embrace change, focus your efforts, and accelerate results. Remember this, you're just one idea away. We'll talk to you soon.